The number of copies you'll need to make depends upon who requires a copy of the report. Standard procedure is that your customer gets a copy and your company gets a copy. But that's not always the case. Some companies use plain paper with carbon paper in between sheets. Others use NCR forms, non-carbonated required style paper. And in high-tech companies, they use computers with printers. Whenever you have to make multiple handwritten copies on NCR forms, be sure you're working on a smooth, flat surface. A clipboard is ideal and will also hold the papers in place. Always use a ballpoint pen, preferably with black ink, as blue ink doesn't copy very well. As I said earlier, always hand print them. When making multiple copies using NCR paper, you'll need to press harder than normal to be sure that the information is imprinted onto the below sheets. Caution: when using NCR paper, always put a hard surface like a cardstock sheet between your working copy and the blank sheets to prevent damaging the next set of the forms. Let's go over some of the most common report forms used by most security guard companies. I'm sure your company has its own report forms, but for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use security guard management forms. A daily log report is a running documentation of how your time was spent and what you found as you patrolled. Most daily log reports have the same basic information in the heading, just how much information is needed depends on your company and the customer's requirements. For the most part, entries are repetitious. In other words, every time you patrol and nothing unusual occurs, you enter the same comments. It's not advisable to carry the daily log when you patrol, even on a clipboard. You need both hands to function properly. Print your post number. Print a customer or client's business name. Print the client's address. Print your name. Here is where you enter your ID number. This is where you print the name of the security officer that relieves you. A word of caution: do not fill this in until the end of your tour of duty, because it may not be the security officer that was scheduled who shows up. If you're working a post where there is no relief, leave it blank or print NA. The next line, you would enter the radio number or cell phone ID number. If you're assigned a guard tour wand that reads barcodes or magnetic buttons, enter its ID number here. Date on. Enter the date that you checked on duty. Time on. Enter the time that you checked on duty. Date off. Enter the date that you checked off at the end of your tour of duty. Many times, a security officer will work from one evening shift into the next day. Time off. Enter the time you check off at the end of your shift. Log report. There are 4 columns with 15 lines. The first column is used to indicate the tour number. In other words, the first patrol that you make, you enter a 1. The second patrol that you make, you enter a 2, and so forth. Start time. This is for the time you start your patrol. End time. This is for the time you end the patrol. Remarks. This is where you print the results of your patrol. If nothing unusual occurs, you could write, patrolled as required, nothing unusual occurred. On the other hand, if something does happen out of the ordinary, one example could be, patrolled as required, exit light out on 4th floor, east stairwell, incident report made, no other occurrences. Signature of security officer. When you complete the daily log at the end of your tour of duty, you sign and then enter the date and time. Signature of relief security officer. This is where the relieving security officer signs after he reviews the log. Signature of supervisor. This is where your supervisor will sign and date after he or she reviews the log. It's not necessary to carry an incident report with you when you do a tour or patrol. Leave it at your post station and use your notebook to document anything unusual that may need reporting. When you return, make an incident report. The other advantage is that you can make a much neater report if the incident report is written on a desk or a clipboard. All security guard companies have their own incident report forms. Some require a lot of detailed information and others just the basics. For this demonstration, I'm going to use the SGM Incident Report template, which is designed to require very little writing. Filling out the incident report. Print your post number. Print the post name, for example, Acme Apartments. Print your name, the officer making the report. A CCN number means Central Control Number. If your company files its reports by control numbers, this is where you put it. Under that, you see page blank of blank pages. Do not fill this in until you finish the report because you may need additional sheets. If you only use one sheet, then it would be 1 of 1 pages. If you need 2 incident report sheets to complete the report, then the first sheet would be page 1 of 2 pages, and the next sheet would be page 2 of 2 pages. Now, don't confuse the number of pages with the number of copies. If you're using NCR forms with multiple copies under the original, that's considered 1 page. Basically, it's only when the next page contains additional information. If you discovered an incident, check yes. If not, check no. If you checked yes, then you will need to enter the date and time here, not the time you're making the report. For example, the time and date you discovered an exit light out. Another example would be when a witness or victim told you when the incident happened. If you made the incident report, check yes or no if you didn't. If it's yes, then you need to enter the date and time that you reported it. An example would be when you called the client to notify them that you could not unlock the front doors. Now, if it's a non-emergency situation, like a small trash accumulation in a stairwell, in the notification block you would check Incident Report, meaning that the incident report is the notification method. Then put in the time and date. Supervisor notified. This block can be left blank if you're reporting a non-emergency incident. All other incidents, you should put the name of the supervisor that you notified. Part of the notification process is the jurisdiction agency you had to make aware: the police department, the fire department, and an emergency response ambulance. The other block would be checked if it involved the sanitation department, the water department, the electric company, so forth. Here is where you write in the agency. For example, DC Police Department, Phoenix Fire Department, New York EMT, etc. Unit number, officer name. In this block, you would enter the police car number, the fire department unit number, etc. You should also enter the name of the agency of the person you notified. Sometimes, in serious situations, it's difficult to ascertain their name because they're busy doing their jobs. In those cases, just the authority name will do. That covers the primary information. The rest of the blocks concern more specific information. Enter the address and exact location of the incident. For example, 3452 Buck Street Northwest, Washington, D.C., West Side, parking lot 3. This is where you'll put the name, address, race, sex, age, and telephone numbers. If there's more than one victim, check the block here and use another incident report or a separate sheet of paper and attach it to this report. This is for the person reporting the information to you, and it's where you would put their name, address, and telephone numbers. If the incident is something that you discovered, then check Report Made by the undersigned, and go on to the next block, Complainant. This is where you put the name, address, telephone number of the person who is injured, has lost or had stolen property, or is the owner. Most of the time, the reporting person and the complainant are one and the same. It could be that the owner of the agency that owns the missing or damaged property is not there and it's being reported by an employee. Put the employee's name here. Witness. This section is filled in the same way as the other blocks. The witness's name, address, telephone numbers are inserted here. This block requires more information if the alleged suspect or alleged perpetrator is known. I say alleged because the information you get may not be accurate and you don't want to leave yourself or your company liable. If the reporting person or witness gives you a description, this is the block where you enter that information. If there's no information regarding the alleged perpetrator, then check the Unknown box. If you don't know the name but have a description, fill in as many blocks and boxes that you can. You may not know all the answers, but put in what you do know. Some examples are sex, male or female. Age, give the approximate age between 20 and 25. Race, if the victim or witness doesn't know the race, they might know the complexion. Dark complexion, light complexion, medium complexion, etc. Height, between 5'5" and 5'8", or you could say about 5'6". Weight, about 150 pounds. Clothing, this depends on what the witness saw. If they only saw that he had dark clothing, then that's what you write down. If they're more descriptive, then put everything they say down. Identifying characteristics. Tattoo. Describe the artwork and locations on the body. Scars. Unless the witness was close and had a good chance to observe the perpetrator, you may not get anything. Armed. Did he have a gun? If you or the witness doesn't know a difference between a revolver and an automatic pistol, just put down the word gun. If they had any other weapons such as a knife, baseball bat, etc., list them. Vehicle. Try to get the year, make, and color. If not, get as much information as you can. Describe. Use this box to describe the scars, weapons, vehicles, etc. Classification. These blocks are pretty much self-explanatory. Safety hazard, property damage, personal injury, fire, missing child, conduct, disorderly, criminal act, missing person, death, lost, parking. Client notified. Enter the time and date you notified the client. Indicate if it was verbal, which could be by telephone or face-to-face. If it is a minor incident that would not require direct notification, then check the box for incident report. So far, you filled out the incident report with a lot of specific information. There's no reason to repeat all of that information again in the narrative section. But you still have to give the full story. Here's an example of a robbery incident. As you can see, it happened very quickly. Example narrative. At the above time and date, the victim reports that the above location, the alleged perpetrator ran by her and snatched her purse containing several credit cards and cash. The suspect ran east and got into a 2011 red Ford pickup and drove off the parking lot. The above police officer responded. As you can see, the entire narrative took only 3 sentences and all the facts are there. Signature. You sign in this block. Supervisor signature. Your supervisor or manager would sign in this block after they review your report. This overview of an incident report is industry standard. As I said, some companies require less and others require more. The bottom line is that either way an incident report should contain all of the pertinent facts. There are many more reports that you may be required to use. To go over all of them would take hours. Your supervisor and training instructor will go over them. One final note. Your reports are you. In other words, your reports will be used to judge your competence and professionalism. Make your reports as neat, accurate, and concise as possible. Finally, always remember the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. You should also remember the 3 C's. Reports should be clear, concise, and complete. This is the end of part 2 of the report writing training session.